Hello, friends and neighbors, brothers and sisters, all you citizens of the world. This is another edition of Heartland at Home, number 25, our first post-election show. I'm Michael James here with Katy Hogan and Thom Clark. We're here for you. We've got a lot of information. We have a wonderful guest coming on to talk about the election. So let's get rolling. And as usual, we start off with trying to find something really good that happened in each of our individual lives. And ladies first, women first. Katy, what happened with you?
You're going to get such a knuckle sandwich.
I'm not supposed to say ladies first anymore.
Never mind. It's
Better
all
start over. Go ahead.
I had a lovely mid-election day visit from my niece and her husband and their two beautiful children. And it wound up that it was Ansel's first time putting his feet in Lake Michigan. And I love how adventurous those parents are. He immediately took off his kids' shoes and socks and put his feet right in that frigid cold water. So I know I'm going to have more fun with Ansel down the road a piece, as well as his beautiful little sister, Maya. How about you, Michael? Did you decide on something good that happened to you this week?
Well, I had a couple of good things. I had a son who left town because a friend of his passed away, went out to Oregon. And, I always worry when my kids are on the road flying, etc. So I picked him up yesterday at the airport. He's back safe and sound. And this morning I had my class. Well, this morning is when we're taping it, I'm sorry to say. But my class at DePaul, Activists in Activism, had Victoria Ramos talking about Pilsen. And it was really very wonderful period. She talked a lot about her own culture and Mexican culture, the dialectic of going back to Mexico, but being from Chicago. The kids loved it. They ate it up. And I'm really engaged weekly with these young students who are learning about the activism of the past and how it will apply to now and into the future. And Thom, I'm sure you had some good shit happening today. How about it?
In this week, awaiting the run up to the election and election results and figuring out what's going to happen next in our country, I have to admit that admiring our lakefront, which is one of our most valuable resources, has been a very consoling moment. We've seen a couple of moon rises, very incredible, with Mars, closest it's been in years, very brilliant if there's a clear night. And it's just been very soothing to have both the crashing waves one day and the very smooth, almost silent waves the next day. At night, it's a whole other experience, like a lunar landscape almost, with that orange ball coming up. It's been quite incredible. Very, very nice. Well, we have had election results pending around us. Biden has more votes than the incumbent and more than 4 years ago, and we're still awaiting the final electoral college thing. It looks pretty good. But we may not know things until December. Katy, what do you think is going to be happening as we await the final word?
Well, remember, people are listening to this on the radio on Saturday morning. So we might have a president. You guys are listening and you may know who the president is already. We're sitting here on Thursday afternoon, and there have been some amazing shifts, I think. But with the electoral college system working the way it is, those shifts are lost in some cases with the winner take all system of the electoral college. What I do hope for, given the amazing number of people who showed up to vote and the remarkable level of understanding people are beginning to get about how to vote and how to take care of their vote and how to take care of the vote of others, is that, maybe civic engagement is finally going to reach what I've been looking for it to be for my entire life. I am disappointed at how close it is, quite frankly. I will say I'm amazed that many of my fellow Americans think it's okay to give the reins back to a guy who killed 200 and what is it, 30,000 of us? The same guy who put kids in cages. I am a little blown away by my fellow Americans. And I will be looking at how many didn't vote. Yes, Michael. You have a question in the back of the class there?
We were all looking for a big moral victory. And, maybe it's just harder to see what we're going to get out of this if we win it. But clearly we have, it challenges our own view of our country that I know the three of us love greatly and have a lot of belief in the people, and keep expecting, if we turn left off the interstate, we'll find good and not so much evil. But clearly we have a situation where there are a lot of people who are not as educated as they should be or could be. They don't have interaction with people who are unlike themselves. And these are real challenges for us going forward, no matter what happens, how we deal with this, and we sort of change this to make our country what we think it can be.
We'll talk in a few moments with our guest, Marge Halpern, I'm sure, about how we're going to live with the cult of Trump, even if he's no longer president. And
in a lighter vein, as people are counting in the final, these for frontline border states, what are they calling them?
Swing states.
Huh?
Swing states?
The ones that make a difference. The six states that are left.
Oh.
It's not, none of you are coming up with the word. I mean, anyway, those states where people are counting the votes and where people are gathering out in front to demonstrate in one way or another. A friend of mine pointed out today, she saw coverage of Trump supporters chanting, "Count those votes, count those votes." And then another piece of publicity, a little piece of tape with a number of different vote protection demonstrations that have been happening of Biden supporters going, "Count every vote, count every vote." Maybe we've all found the place that we can agree. Count every vote.
Yeah, well, the Trump people are doing it. Count the votes in Arizona, but don't count them in Pennsylvania.
They're talking out of both sides of their mouth. I know.
And, they want to have representation inside, and there are plenty of Republicans in every polling place.
Yes, and my favorite thing of all is the women who are holding sway over the counting of these ballots. I got to talk to Marge about that when she comes on, though, so I'll save it for then.
Meanwhile, COVID.
Yeah, we've never been this high in COVID in the state and across the nation. We're what's the most recent number today?
Well, we're over 233,000 total dead. We're over 9,900 COVID cases in Illinois. That's a daily total.
Right.
Our infection rate, which used to be under 4%,
is
climbed back over 5, 6, and now is at 9.
9.1.
It's a little worse in the city now. We're probably all needing to get tests every couple of weeks because of the infection rates now in the population. And that's the way it is. I mean, look at Europe. Most of Europe has gone into a month-long lockdown.
Exactly.
And we had that kind of, ex officio back in spring. If we had done it throughout the entire country, maybe we would have licked this thing by now. As it is, we're looking at a pretty dismal winter where we probably will still have to shut down once we have a leader in the White House that might set a national public health policy that will save a few more of us. There could be 100,000 more deaths in the US alone before a new president is sworn in. So we have some challenges still facing us, whoever's on top.
And it's hard to see, the back and forth. Locally, we have a neighborhood business guy who, out of frustration, I mean, his business is about to turn 2 years old here in the neighborhood. And out of frustration, he said, I might have to just flaunt the rules, both of the mayor and the governor, and serve people inside my music / food joint right up the street. And he got lambasted for it. Well, he got lambasted for that and for the fact that he compared his suffering to women's right to choose. Not good. But I feel for the business owners, and I feel like saying, okay, say you've got a body of customers, 30 or 40 customers who are perfectly okay coming in and swapping spit in your place and having someone blow a horn at them and everything else. Can you please, at your front door, not let them out without giving them a mask and having them put it on before they come out into our neighborhood? I don't know what to do. It's very rough.
The restaurant owners in particular feel really set upon, and it probably affected the fair tax vote, particularly in the collar counties, which are widely violating the shutdown order for indoor dining.
Right.
And it looks like that will continue. It's a really tough issue when one sector feels like it's being singled out over and above others, say casinos, because of course
Right.
casinos produce tax base for the state. So it's a really, really tough debate between, again, the economy and public health.
Yeah.
I've always just figured, we need to keep customers healthy so they can keep buying stuff. And it seems to me that's puts health first, but I don't know. It's become
Let's
so
remember to
political.
ask Marge about that too when she comes out.
Yeah. One more thing about he's not gone yet.
Please.
The Alaska Tongass National Forest is now open to logging. 60 more days to make sure we get all those federal lands into a productive economic mode. So one of the largest intact temperate rainforests, which we protected for over 2 decades going back to Bill Clinton, is now open for business. Good luck to all of us. And with that, maybe we need a little bit of Tracy Chapman. What do you think?
Bring it on.
Yeah, let's hear her. Boy, she is somebody who has aged well.
Oh, yes.
What a beauty. What a beauty.
Miss Chapman, please, some soothing words to get us going again.
Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Poor people gonna rise up and get their share. Poor people gonna rise up and take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Oh no, talking about a revolution. Oh, while they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. And finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Oh no, talking about a revolution. Go, talking about a revolution. Go.
Oh, dang. That was delicious. Revolution. We are joined now by the wonderful and brilliant Marge Halperin. Welcome. Thanks for coming on live from the Heartland, even though we're not quite live and we're not at the Heartland.
We're doing our best.
In the big Heartland. Marge Halperin, most people who have seen you that don't know you like personally, like we do, see you as a Democratic pundit on TV. I mean, you have been the person they call across from, what's his name? Chris
Roebling.
Chris Roebling on Channel 9 for so long. You guys are more buddies than you are adversaries. I think sometimes you have to go, okay, let's gin up some controversy between us. But I have not seen Chris in a while, so I hope he's well. How did you wind up in that role? I know that you have your own consulting business for a while now, but you've been doing politics for a long, long time. And how did you wind up being the person they call?
Well, actually, for people who think that LinkedIn does nothing for you, I got there through LinkedIn. I was on it years ago. I've been doing this with Chris more than 10 years. And I thought, oh, there's Chris Roebling. So I sent him a LinkedIn request. He answers it immediately. Then my phone rings immediately. And he said, Marge, I just saw you on LinkedIn. And, I've been doing this thing in WGN. And I had someone else as a Democratic woman, and it didn't work out. But you're a woman, you're a Democrat. Have you ever done this? You want to do this? And that's how I got it. And then I went on and auditioned, some with GN, and there you go. And actually, I've done it with some other partners more recently as well. So, yeah. And I actually, for this election, I've done it by myself on the evening news yesterday, in fact.
There was a while where
it's been nice.
There was a while where you might print something online ahead of your appearance and say, I'm going to be talking about thus and so this morning. Any thoughts? Which was awfully nice of you to make it a community moment, if you will. You also have been pretty active with Indivisible, right?
Yes, Indivisible Chicago, member of the executive committee and one of the leaders of the phone bank operation in this past campaign, coming down to this last weekend when I and Mike Lenahan, who I'm pretty sure you also know, who used to be the editor of The Reader, right. The two of us developed a training program, and we trained, I've lost count, but somewhere upwards of 500 phone bankers over the summer and over the last few weeks, right to the end, actually.
How many calls into Wisconsin? How many calls into Wisconsin? How many calls into Michigan?
I don't have it broken out. We ended up, it was about 420,000 calls total. Wisconsin, Michigan, some Illinois. We also supported Lauren Underwood and Fair Tax in Illinois. But then in the last month or so, we expanded to Iowa. When we saw Joni Ernst's seat possibly in reach, wasn't in the end. Had there been the blue tsunami we thought we'd have, it would have included Teresa Greenfield for Iowa Senate seat, but it didn't turn out like that. So much that we anticipated did not turn out quite like that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the blue tsunami that didn't happen, because we were all together, and actually, don't I remember seeing you as a delegate to the same convention I was a delegate at for a different candidate 4 years ago?
No. I've attended several conventions, but never as a delegate.
Okay, never mind. Sorry. But the blue wave that we did manage to pull off in 2018, which included Sean Casten and Lauren Underwood, great successes here in our neck of the woods, and set up Ms. Newman to be successful this week. I'm very concerned about Lauren, and I'm wondering what you think about what didn't happen or did happen to interrupt the possibility of another blue wave, much less a tsunami.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of split tickets. I think it's obvious we're going to see a lot of split tickets. One of the things from Iowa that was interesting is that people were splitting their tickets in both directions.
Yeah.
So we had on our script the opportunity to check both, which means it's quite common, or they wouldn't give you a checkbox for it, right? So I'm saying we had Biden Ernst and Trump Greenfield voters. And I think what happens when people split their tickets is they're like, okay, all right, so Trump is more than the tweets. We just can't have him again. But I'm not going to give the keys to the socialist, leftist, burn down your city party. So I'm going to make sure Congress still has some, control over this crazy old president, right? They mean our crazy old president,
Yes.
not theirs. Ours not being really crazy at all. But I think that's it. I think people were too nervous to hand the whole thing over. And historically, we've seen a lot of that. Isn't that how we got Rauner with our Democratic legislature, for example? You weren't going to get Madigan out of there, and they're all Democrats, our local legislators. But let's be sure, I think it's a check and balance, a not very educated or thoughtful check and balance idea, because, of course, all you do is paralyze the work of government when you do that without having some scenario where people can work together. But it's a roadblock, not a consensus builder to split ticket like that. So all it does is point out this divide in the country, right? That is deeper than we thought. I think how deep we don't know until we get Trump to step away, if he does, even,
Don't go Bill Maher on me.
Oh, well, I don't know. I can't say, but we've got this crazy cyclone of social media where people don't have to be thoughtful, whether you're the president or someone else. You just tweet away, you just copy and you send it out and you retweet and you without thinking. How do we get our country back to being more thoughtful? I have a childhood friend who's a Republican in Florida, and sent me this note today and said, I understand Trump is probably not going to win. I thought, well, that's good. You're seeing, the votes come in and you're understanding. She said, but I just don't understand. I hope Biden can really help this country. I don't understand why Obama couldn't help Black people. And, Biden is so old and sick. I hope he's healthier than he looks because I'm scared to death of Harris. So she's like, okay, court thing is crazy. But all that other stuff I read on the internet and hear on Fox News makes a lot of sense to me. Trying to be thoughtful, but not hearing, the other side. Where I kept telling our phone bankers, when you're calling these rural districts, purple districts, pivot districts, whatever you want to call them, take yourself out of your blue bubble, because people will support Biden. They have to support Biden for reasons you don't agree with. You have to be able to talk to people about Second Amendment rights, about what they will call the rights of the unborn child, and not hang up on them or block them like you would on Facebook. How do we have that conversation and really understand it's an open question? I think we can't have that conversation when Trump is thundering in everybody's ear in all caps.
Right.
I hope we can later.
Give her a rest. Ask her a question, one of you guys.
I'm going on and on.
No,
We're just, Yeah.
No, that was great. That was wonderful.
Well, let's ask a question about did Madigan's corruption cost him some House seats? Maybe the Supreme Court seat? JB's, I'm not sure where to go with that, but let's just talk about Madigan for a minute.
Nobody likes Madigan, apparently, no matter which side they're on, unless he's done a favor for them, which of course isn't nobody. But he's become the guy everybody loves to hate, no matter which side of the aisle they're on. I mean, that's how we lost Judge Kilbride, right? Madigan's favorite judge.
Right.
Well, that and several $1 million out of Ken Griffin's pocket. And look, he bought a judge's seat on the state Supreme Court with his money, and he bought a whole lot of tax increases for the rest of us because he kept shelling his money out against fair tax. I'd rather talk about that in this state. How does one super rich guy get to direct the state, and not the super rich guy we elected to direct the state, but another super rich guy who just happens to pull all the money out of his pocket unchecked and have more money than the guy we elected, if we're going to do a showdown that way. But I would like to talk about that, because I think that's a man who controlled our state in this election, and I don't like it.
When you say that's a man, you mean Madigan?
No, I mean Ken Griffin.
Oh, you mean
It's tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all going to pay higher taxes. He'd rather pay $60 million in TV ads full of lies than whatever the tax burden was about to be on him if we actually had a graduated tax. That tells
Martha,
us something.
let me ask you about the ads for the fair tax, opposing the fair tax. Were those actors they had, or were those people they went out and found? And I'm just amazed that people would take that job and give those lies. I wonder if you had any insight.
I don't know, but I've made political ads before, and generally you will choose somebody, you'll cast somebody, whether it's an actor that you pay or a volunteer who feels and looks the part. I actually don't doubt that those people meant what they said, believed what they said, because they heard the lies that the narrator told everybody else. They were duped. That poor old lady who was so frightened, that she'd be ruined. They're going to tax me next. Well, do you want to be taxed first? Because that's what's going to happen now.
Right.
I just, the logic of it escaped me. It was so frustrating. Didn't we all scream at our TVs to no avail?
I'm
TVs didn't hear us.
I'm curious to dig in a little bit more on our messaging, and the fair tax, one might argue, is water under the bridge now. But if we're to be in a listening mode as you coached your phone bankers to try to meet folks halfway, understand what bubble they're in, that their fears are, emanating from. When facts don't matter, what else do we use to persuade? That may be our biggest failing on the so-called left, is that we claim to have the facts, but somehow that doesn't get the story across that compels people to understand our bubble.
Well, I think I would flip what you just said, and we have to get better at leading with the story based on the facts. I mean, that's why that commercial I referenced was so powerful. There was the lady who looked like everybody's grandma, please. She was like begging. She was afraid. And probably she really was, because they told her, maybe they told her we're in a tax retirement, which Illinois isn't going to do. But by the way, when that commercial first started running, I had a friend who asked me, is Illinois going to tax retirement under fair tax? I couldn't find the answer. I'm really good with Googling research elsewhere, but I couldn't find the answer for about 2 weeks before they put out the facts on taxing retirement.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, our own. I had the exact same. I had to check myself to double check that was not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while too. I asked a couple of the Network 49 pros on fair tax to get that answer.
Let me ask
I had an issue with using tax in the fair tax campaign because it immediately raised the specter of taxes. And I think it was a goner from that point on. I mean, I went with the messaging that had been developed when I did phone banking, and I had my own stories to counter stuff I was hearing back even before the bad commercials.
Oh no, Tom, you went off script on your phones. Jeez. It's like me adding words to my postcard writing to Michigan.
Oh, you can't do that on postcards.
You're not supposed to do that.
No. But you're right, Tom. What about fair share?
Yes.
Hey.
I even think taxpayers could have understood graduated rates, like the federal taxes we pay.
Yeah.
Rich people pay more than we do. Why shouldn't that be the case in Illinois? There was some, I thought, simple storytelling that we weren't supposed to use because it had triggered something else in some focus group. And I got to tell you, I am done with focus groups in polling. I know it's supposed to work, but these marketers are like the financiers. It's not the real economy. It's something else that's going on that they get paid for. And how can we ever trust these polls again, Marge? I mean, you've used them as a guidepost, but my gosh, this is 2 national election cycles in a row where they blew it. It looks like
they corrected for the last time. So what were the mistakes this time? And also, they'll say that the 2016 polls weren't so wrong. You got a margin of error of 4%. None of these Midwest states or battleground states, there were a few outlier polls, but generally Biden was ahead in Wisconsin and Michigan within the margin of error. it was, you know, sometimes 1, 4. Michigan got sometimes up to 8, but you knew that was too high. I mean, that was an outlier poll. You have to have a sense about them, you know, where they come from and how to read them. That's why I use poll averages. But I also think the Trump phenomenon, it is going to take a long time to dissect that. I think people, you know, so-called shy Trump voter, which sounds like an oxymoron.
Right.
They're only shy when it comes to telling you they're for Trump, except those aren't the people who, you know, beat you up for wearing a mask in Walmart. But otherwise, other people who just don't want to say, you know, this idea, well, I don't like his tweets, but I sure like my 401k, you know. I think they realize how awful that sounds, and they don't want to say it out loud to a pollster. I don't know how much of that was a factor. I'm waiting for the analysis to tell us, but has to be. The bully factor is huge.
You know, I heard Bob Casey, senator from Pennsylvania, today on the air, and he said that Trump was something else. There will be no future Republican presidential candidate that will get those kind of numbers in Pennsylvania. And I don't know if, you know, we like to think about the demographics of the growth of the Democratic Party, the diversity that we have. What do you think our chances going forward, or how the Republicans, the Democrats will play out? You know, Don Rose is always talking about, you know, the demographics are with the Democrats, but we've gotten hit 2 times now, not quite this time. What's your sense of the future of these political parties, the Republicans in particular? And then if you want, dealing with Trump after he's out of office.
Well, you know, Don's right. The country is becoming majority minority. So that has to have an impact on voting trends. I think we saw, you know, it always comes down to the race question, doesn't it?
It does.
I don't want to make any blanket accusations. I don't think the aforementioned friend in Florida is racist, but I don't think she has a very deep understanding of equity issues and the role that white supremacy and privilege have played in our lives, because we're both white. But I think that's where, to Tom's earlier question, all the facts, you can't go all wonky on that issue. That's not going to bring anybody along. How do we have discussions across the divide and help people have an understanding of the dramatic imbalance when one side's talking about the dramatic imbalance, the other side's looking at power and afraid they're going to lose it.
I mean, part of the Trump phenomenon, I believe, is the slowly seeping into their mentality of his voters, the fact that the globe is already a minority white situation and that is coming to our shores, and they are freaked out just beyond belief about that. And so the use of the word socialist as a boogeyman for Biden, very effective. Certainly was effective with the Cuban population in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're right about changing storytelling. I think also we have to watch this president, the one that hopefully is outgoing, over the next 75 days. I mean, he signed into law, was it Wednesday, Tom, that the Tongass forest in Alaska can now be, I mean, he said it a couple of weeks ago, but what did he do just this week to say, go for it, guys, get your drilling in there?
Permits are being issued.
The what?
The permits are being issued.
The permits are being issued. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a little concerned about what happens between now and January 20th, if Biden is the winner when everybody is seeing this show, What
do you think about the next 80 days, Marge?
Well, he's got more executive orders to go. He hasn't even started really on the pardons for himself and his family, or what else he's going to try to do. That discussion's going to happen really soon. You think you think it's a joke when he says maybe I'll fly away or go to some other country? No. I think he might really have that in mind. Maybe
He has
it'll
to
be a new
escape the
kind of
US.
pirate radio, where he gets on the ship.
Some people are saying that he will resign and Pence will then become the president and pardon him. I don't know how much,
I've heard that too.
but I've been hearing that one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Could work, I suppose. But he's
He'll be trying to leave the country before the U.S. Marshals out of New York try to arrest him.
Right.
that seems more his style. But
One of the
don't-
more exciting and unexpected things that have happened since the blue wave of 2018 is what occurred this week in Georgia. And Georgia is becoming a northern state in the South. And if it all goes well, fingers crossed, we might get not one but two runoff Senate races in January, which would be awfully good because like you, I never really thought we could get Mitch McConnell. He's too connected and I even thought it was going to be hard to get Lindsey. As it turned out, both of them were impossible to get, as was Joni Ernst, and Susan Collins. So I think we're going to be hoping very much for this Georgia thing to pan out because what's Biden going to do? I could see Biden would be a good president in terms of crossing the aisle, and maybe some other things become possible because he's reasonable, and there are reasonable people like Murkowski from Alaska and what's his face in Utah. But I'm a little concerned if we don't get it a little more equal by the time January 20th comes along.
Marge, could you address the loss of those Senate seats that Katie mentioned that we thought we might get? What you think might have happened?
the Senate seats and 9-10 House seats
Yes,
that we didn't even have our eyes on
I know.
for the most part. It's more of that crossover vote or that split ticket, I think. I think that people who wanted to have a Republican president who didn't want Biden felt forced into voting for him. And they're like, all right, but that's all you get. I'm not giving any more quarter to the Democrats. I really don't like him, but Trump is more than his tweets and I'm going to vote against him, but that's all. I just think that is what happened, that people were, I think Trump was very effective with the socialist message, the burning cities, you know. I have a brother in Grand Rapids who wrote to me in the middle of all that, said, if you need a safe place to stay, you can come to Grand Rapids. I'm like, have you looked at your COVID rates? I'm not coming there. They were like double ours. To me, that was the danger, you know. Kent County, pretty dangerous place, as far as I could see. So he managed to change the subject somewhat and talk about messaging. Tom, what about defund the police?
March Halpern, we want to thank you so much for joining us, even as we wait final results, and wish you best in your next steps in this crazy political world that we're in. And
we didn't get to ask her what she wants Biden to do, so we're going to have her back.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Clear, I'm not questioning defund the police. I'm saying it had an impact.
Oh,
I
no.
don't want to leave it like that.
Oh, I understood your messaging points very well. That's one thing he's very good at, is storytelling. I mean, Reagan was very good at storytelling. Didn't mean it was true, but he's very, very effective spokespersons. And the problem is that he's not the problem. He's a symbol of something else, as you pointed out earlier, that's still unconfronted in our gap that we talked about.
We all have to really work on our storytelling, because we do have an urban-rural divide. We do have a rural population that's older, that's white, doesn't come into contact with other people. And these people should not be rooting for the wealthy Republicans. And the Democratic Party, you know, it's an umbrella tent kind of a scene. So we got a lot of mixing it up to do. And then we do have other elections. We got 2022, 2024, and we got to be getting ready right away. That's all.
I'm tired. I'm so tired when you say that.
Don't be tired, Katie. Come on. Can't be too tired. Onward.
Stop now.
Well, All right, we'll have you back, Marge, because
Good
we
to
didn't
meet
even
you.
get to all of our questions that we wrote out, but it was
Sorry
really
if I did run on a little, but thanks
No,
for having me.
it's great to have you. Great to have you.
We all ran on a little bit.
we all did.
We have a
I
lot to
know.
talk about.
All
Well, thanks,
right.
guys. Good to see y'all.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you
so-
again.
Be well. Stay safe.
Thanks. Same to you.
Who's got a little thing on,
So Michael and Katie,
Yes, Tom.
I noted the past couple weeks that Arlo Guthrie decided to hang up his guitar and his storytelling after 50 years of doing touring on the road. And I was just wondering, in your years of running the Heartland Cafe, do you have any Alice's Restaurant kind of stories?
You mean like backing up a car and dumping a bunch of Thanksgiving garbage down a ravine?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
know
no,
those
no.
scavenger fees can be kind of high in the city.
Yeah, no, we didn't have that, but we had moments. You
some
know.
garbage somewhere before we had a garbage service in the first few months. Anyhow, keep going, Katie.
I don't know what he just said, and I don't think I want to. But there were times when the gendarme, if you will, found it necessary to come in and change the locks on our doors and take the contents of our cash register with them. Twice that happened.
Yeah,
Twice.
one time someone walking out the back door with the receipts from the day before.
Smart people we had working with us.
Hey, we want to thank all you people who tuned in to listen to us. We want to thank Marge Halperin for being our guest. We want to thank Susan Clark and Luis, our intern Luis. And we want to encourage you all to do good in the world because the world needs all the good that you do. All
All power to the people.
See you next week.